With that, let's go to Adrian Autry now as we kick off our second hour. He's brought to you every week by Oswego County Mutual. Coach, thanks so much for hopping on with us today. How you doing today on this Thursday?
Doing good. Getting ready to meet with the team. Getting ready.
All right, so let's just start with your overall assessment of the game last night. Up 16 at the half. Obviously didn't win by as many as you probably would have liked to, but what's your overall assessment of what we saw last night?
I thought we had the first half. I thought our energy and attention and our connection was a lot better. The first half, we had some small dips right in the beginning, where I thought they jumped out and got a couple of baskets, and then we kind of settled in, and I thought we finished off the remaining of the first half really well with the energy five that we talk about, the connection, the point, the talking, the energy, and connection. I thought the second half, we had our spurts. We had more dips in the second half as far as not being able to recover as fast from those dips, and I thought, the way we finished the game in the last 58 seconds, that was what we were talking about. Being able to recover from that, we got a chance to, finish that game off, in a better ending. But we're still learning. We're still trying to stay consistent with that, and we'll just kind of keep progressing from there.
Coach, you've been saying level 5 energy, and we've seen it against Houston and Tennessee where it's a 40 minutes of it. Where is the disconnect in the guys that it's not there for teams like Mercyhurst for 40 minutes?
Well, I don't think it's a disconnect, Paulie. I don't think it's anything. I think it's something that's very challenging to do. Can you get up and go 100%, 24 hours? Or 4 hours or 1 hour straight, like that's just human nature, right? So that's where we talk about our connection. So it's not a disconnect. We're working right now on being able to recover from those, things. We hold ourselves in a higher standard, all right? So when I say dips, that may, you guys may not see that, or the public may not see that, but overall, you're talking about a team that is still without dips and everything that we've done right now with the challenging schedule. One of the top 25 or 30 defensive teams in the country right now, statistically. So again, what we're trying to do is different. What we're trying to do is we're not trying to just be okay. We're trying to be elite. We're trying to be rare. We're trying to win and compete for championships, right? That's what we're trying to do. So our vision and the way we see things is different than the way everyone else sees things.
Okay, well, you say with how you see things, what are you seeing that you like from this team? Because today's been pretty negative with our callers. What do you see that's positive with your team right now?
Right now, that we are defensively still doing what we're trying to do. We got to be more consistent with that. We're growing as far as we increased our, we had a good net from the free throw shooting line. Obviously, we got to take care of the ball a little bit better, but our connection and being able to recover is being a lot better. As far as not having as many dips in practice and carrying it out through the game, and in our fight. I think everyone is missing the fight. Everyone is missing the fight of this team, regardless of what, to be able to fight and, come back and be battling and be in every game that we've had on our schedule this year, minus 20 minutes of one half out in Vegas. The fight is what everyone is missing. Again, the way we've improved over, from year to year, especially defensively, it's one of those things where everyone loves to talk about what you can't do, and no one's really talking about what you are doing good. And that's where I'm proud of our guys. We focused on defense this whole summer and our connection. And as of right now, we're doing a really, we're doing a good job, and it could be better. And it can be better. But we're going to focus on the things that we have to improve on, obviously. But we're not going to let that negative energy or what we no team is perfect. Everyone has their. But if one year you could be a good offensive team, but then you can't. You're not a good defensive team, right? You got to try to find that balance of being both, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
Coach, one topic that's come up on the show today is the topic of Nathan George, and 6 turnovers last night. He's had 4 games this year where he's had 5 or more turnovers in a game, and he's also had some really good games as well. What's your message to him after a game like that? I know you said in the press conference last night we got to do collectively a better job taking care of the basketball. How do you address that with your point guard? After a game like that where he turned it over 6 times.
Well, obviously, Nate, he's a student of the game. He was watching film last night, himself, and we'll go over the film. And again, I think a lot of it is, sometimes just, assuming, right? We got to do a better job of, taking what we have and not trying to create. Typically, good passers, what makes them good passers is that they take some risks sometimes. So we got to do a better job, in that. In that category, being a little bit more safer right now until you figure out your teammates, until you have that connection with your teammates. I know I had a very good connection with Lawrence Moen and John Wallace. The guys that I played with, that I can give them a look and I knew where they were going to go, and I can just lead the ball there to them. Right, like he's still in that stage, not an excuse, but until we get comfortable, we have to take what we get.
J.J. Starling's been very consistent. Had another good game last night, really good half to get you guys going, and then finish with 15 points. We've seen him do some good things at the point guard spot, when Nathan's been on the bench. How would you kind of assess J.J.'s overall play, and do you think we could potentially see him more at the 1 moving forward?
I love what J.J.'s doing on the defensive end of the side of the ball, and then obviously his offense is coming around, and he's a guy that plays 2 positions. And we love our backcourt. We think it's going to be, when we get clicking, we think it's going to be one of the best backcourts, in our conference. I love, what he's doing, and then the excitement of him and Nate being able to kind of put it together is going to be really exciting for us. And again, the one thing I'll say is, when we get a chance to get Donnie Freeman back, that's going to change a lot of things for us, the spacing and the way people defend us and the way people guard us. You got a guy that can finish plays back into the fold. So again, it's exciting, and I'm excited, for the thought of getting everybody back very soon.
One other guy that's been really consistent for you is William Kyle, second in the nation in block shots. Maybe you talk a little bit about his play.
For Willis, I said the disruptor. He's a guy that really on that, and he's the key to our defense. Obviously, when we ask our guys to play at the level 5 intensity and make people put the ball on the floor, you need rim protection, and you need a guy that can move. And he holds it down back there, with his rebound and his shot blocking, and then offensively, he finishes, he puts pressure on the rim, he passes. Just thrilled to have him, and he's going to continue to get better. He's a hard worker. He's all about winning. He does all the right stuff. Great leadership. I think he's playing as good as anyone in the country at his position right now. And the impact that he has on our team is so important. And he's a big part of leading our defense right now.
Coach, I asked you about the disconnect earlier, but how do you get guys to do what William Kyle is doing? He's on the court and he looks like he's going at it 100% the whole time.
All of our guys are. Everybody has different traits. You and Steve got different traits. Thank God. That's why it's called the team. And gelling. Again, you can't. The one thing is, you can't say, hey, he looks like he's doing something. This other person's not looking like we do. It's all different. Guards, forwards, the movements, depending on who your matchup is against. But again, I don't think anyone has watched our team and could walk away and say someone is not giving 100%. And I think, some people may not like that. But that's what we do. We go out and we play at level 5, and then we have some dips, absolutely. But at the end of the day, overall, this is we want to be one of the hardest playing teams in the country. We want to make people earn things, and so far we've done that, and we got to continue to do that, and we got to clean up some things from that piece of it. Especially the recovery part. When something does go wrong, we got to be able to bounce back. We got to be able to bounce back, refocus, and continue with that energy. And the one thing we don't want to do is let our offense, dictate our defensive juice and our effort juice. That's what we don't want to do.
talking about traits, one of William Kyle's traits, he is so quick off his feet. There was a play last night where a defender gave him a head fake down low, and he jumped. And I was like, well, he's going to commit a foul here. And then the guy went up with the ball, and he still blocked it. It was amazing how quickly he got back off, on his feet for that second opportunity and was able to swat it away. You brought up Donnie Freeman a moment ago and said when we get him back. We saw him warm up last night. We saw him suit up. That seems like a good sign to us. Can you share anything? Is he getting closer? Should we expect him in one of these 2 games before the Clemson game?
Yeah, closer is definitely something that he is. As far as the game, I can't pinpoint that right now, just based on the information that that I got. But he's definitely getting closer. We just want to keep building and getting better. In his absence, and again, we just, when he comes back, we'll be ready, and he'll be ready to help us again. And that's a big piece of what we do as well. You talking about a guy that averaged 17, 18 points, 8 rebounds. He will continually help us get better and be better.
Coach, I want to go back to the Hofstra game if I could just for a moment, because there's been a lot, we haven't talked to you since last week, and there's been a lot of talk about the last minute of the game and the officiating. I'm not going to ask you to talk about the officiating, but some calls went against you. One of those calls was the out-of-bounds play where you lost your last timeout because of the challenge. And then you get the ball back, and now you don't have a timeout to draw up a play. Can you walk us through, I guess, how the guys are coached in that situation? No timeout, and they've got to go make a play. Can you walk us through what was the plan there, I guess, on that last offensive possession?
Well, it's a play. I won't give you the play's name. It's a play where we go through every scenario. We have every situations like this. We practice it, pretty much every day, whether it's half court, full court, under out of bounds, side out of bounds, 2 points, 3 points, seconds, whatever. So, in particular, that was a play where, we wanted to get the ball to the 5 and get a handoff with JJ going downhill. We didn't execute that. And the inbounder comes back in if we don't get that for a handoff, which that was Kai. And then, with 13 seconds in those games, you don't want to settle. You want to put pressure on the rim and go to the basket, spread out and have our guys dive down and clear the space out, in which, and that was what it was. I won't. Everyone else seen the rest, but that was it. You start in the backcourt, you try to get a guy coming downhill with a handoff. If they don't get it, they give themselves up, and then the guy that inbounds it comes in and gets the ball. That was it. And that was the way it was executed. Probably not as cleanly as we would like, but it still got executed, and we still put pressure on the rim, and everybody else seen the rest.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, I'm not going to make you say it. We all saw that he got fouled on the play. I know in football, for instance, if there's a call or two that the coaching staff is upset about, they can send it into the conference and they have it reviewed, so on and so forth. I don't know the answer to this, so I'm just going to ask you, is that something you can do in basketball as well on a play like that? Can you send it into the conference? Can you share anything about that with us?
Yeah, you can send it in, but the reality is that there's nothing you can do about it but just send it in. So
yeah,
it doesn't change the outcome.
It's not satisfying.
Right, it's not satisfying at all. Trust me, it's not satisfying. Yeah. So, but that's sports. I think you gotta be able to play through those things, and that's where right now our mindset is being able to play through tough moments and bad calls and be able to recover and get refocused on what needs to be done. We walk into every game. We don't expect a call. We practice that way. We train that way to not get the call, and that's why we put so much emphasis on connection, level 5 intensity, because that's the only way you get through adversity. That's the only way you get through it, and it's not only from a basketball standpoint. It's through life. So that's the stuff that we talk talk about. We go into every game not expecting anything. We're going to go there and take what we want, and the only way we can do that is competing with connection, level 5, communication, level 5 energy, and being able to recover from those things. And that's the things that we've been working on, and we continue to work on those things. Even to the point of not having, one of your leading scorers through this stretch of games. I think our guys have really done a really good job of, coming together, staying connected, and fighting. And again, that's where you hear all the talk or all this stuff about that, this or that, what we not do. But I think the real conversation should be how these guys fight, battle every game. Even when it seems like they might not pull it out. They put themselves in positions to win and go up with 4 minutes on the clock, with 3 minutes on the clock. We were some of the things that we've been able to do, and again, just the fight. We didn't get the result, but I think people really need to focus on the fight that this team has, and I think it mirrors this community. This community is about toughness and fighting and things like that. And I think this team really gives you that. And I want, I would love for people to really start to kind of talk more about that. The other stuff is going to be the other stuff, right? But, somebody out there needs to talk and acknowledge what this group of men are doing right now. And it's early on the season as far as what they're trying to do, because they are giving, what I'm asking them to do is very tough. It's difficult to do the things that we're asking them to do, and they are fighting each and every day in each and every game.
I just got one more for you, Coach. Cayenne took that last shot in that game, and maybe you could just talk about how he's played, because he's probably been, with Donnie out, your third most important player on this team.
Everyone is important in our family, man. One body. But Cayenne has been really good. He's a very confident guy. He's a talented offensive player. I love where he's going as far as being, as being a great teammate, really pushing, improving on the other side of the basketball. I thought, last night, I think he had 3 rebounds. I think he's doing a lot of other things besides just that. He's a really, he's a basketball player. He's not just, he's just not one-dimensional, and I've challenged him that way. And he's really, responded, and he's going to continue to get better, through this time. Him and Sadiq and, these guys have had, a great opportunity as young pieces to get a lot of experience and to continue to grow and to continue to get better. So, we're excited where he's going with his development, and and all of these guys' development, all of our freshmen.
All right, next opportunity for everybody to play comes Saturday, 4 o'clock Northeastern, inside the Dome. Coach, as always, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much. Good luck Saturday, and we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, guys. Thank you. Take care.